quarterback battle? Is that not how this is going to work?
You know what? There could be a vote. I bet it would be split right down the middle amongst the coaching staff. It's sort of impressive. But I will tell you this. Like we did some 2-minute drills at the end of practice, and you sure as heck better know who's at quarterback because they both have tools, but the tool sets can be a little bit different. So that's something you really got to be aware of.
Does that help you, I assume, just as a defense in general, to prepare for two very different types of players?
It does, absolutely, because you'll see multiple types of quarterbacks across the year, but also just having the awareness out there to know who is that quarterback. You have to have situational awareness, especially at camp. There can be a tendency to just play the call. Just play football, play after play after play. No, we have to be situationally aware. So having us switch quarterbacks in our mind and things like that just helps us.
You're replacing 2 All-American corners, a first-team all-conference safety. Arquan's going to be out there. Javon's going to be out there. Is it fun or stressful to figure out who those other 3 spots will be?
I would say it's fun. I would say the thing about the success we've had in the secondary is those become the standards and those become the expectations and those are the standards that each of the guys are driving for. So not only competing with themselves, but they're competing with the legacy that's put out there in the defensive backs. So there's a bunch of dudes. I was sitting here trying to name them all in my head before I walked out that are actually in the competition. There aren't that many guys that are getting after it. But it's a competition amongst themselves, and then just the belief of how good we are in the secondary and living up to that are both pushing guys.
That might be a little different than quarterback because if you're not the starter, you're a good chance you might still get to play a bunch, at that type of position. So how do you keep those guys locked in and know even if you're not with the ones, we're still going to need you?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. On defense, we're talking about we need to find 22 starters or more. 1As and 1Bs, as we say. Not 1s and 2s, 1As and 1Bs. We've already discussed the fact it's not going to be like Kobe plays every single snap of the field and Gardner plays every snap of the mountain. It won't be like that. So we got to take advantage of the tools that we have, and right now depth is what us.
You've been coaching for a pretty long time now. How rare is it to see a guy like JQ as a freshman come in and look like he's ready to contribute at this level?
No, it is pretty rare. Like even softs, it wasn't until a couple games into the season that the coaching staff was like, oh, shit, I think we got something right here. Oh, my goodness, we have something right here. So it's pretty rare, but on the other side of the coin, he has to come out and do it in scrimmages and earn the right to do it in games. So we're not going to talk a whole bunch about that yet.
The D-line, is Luke Fickell said he's trying to find some depth there. How difficult or how much big of a priority is it finding the guys behind your board, behind your one players?
It's an absolute priority. Coach might already mention this, but we've talked to the guys about Marcus Brown was as instrumental to Curtis Brooks being drafted as Curtis was. Because Curtis played 52% of the snaps. Not 90, 52% of snaps because of how good Marcus was, and that allows you to sell out every single snap. So it's, especially at the D-line, it's absolutely critical to have 6 to 8 true starters that you don't have to hesitate to roll. That's the only way to let the others play to their absolute potential.
You talked about the different skill sets at quarterback, what that does for defense. What about on your side? When you have guys like Jaheim and Ivan rotating there, Deshaun and Ty, does that give you maybe a little bit more flexibility as a defense to play different ways?
Yeah, I think that in the same way we're talking about quarterbacks, there's going to have to be some awareness of who's on the field defensively for an offense. There's no doubt about it. Although, Jaheim and Pace both bring great blitzability and things like that, so they're a little interchangeable, but they play differently. Deshaun and Ty play differently, and we will play to their strengths. So you probably at the end of the year could recognize, oh man, DP did a bunch of this, Ty did a bunch of that. But it makes us feel like as coaches, we have a whole bunch of tools in the toolbox. We're just talking to the rep and it's like, holy smokes, when I put it all together, you got people coming from everywhere. So that allows us to do a lot.
With the Pace brothers, I can only assume it's somewhat special or at the very least unique to have 2 brothers on the same side of the ball playing the same position. What does that look like?
They are really embracing being on the same team. I mean, it's so impressive. That's what I love to see. We already have a brotherhood here as a team and as a defense. So that just makes it even stronger. And they're both playing linebacker. They're playing different linebacker positions. So they're not ultimately competing for the exact same snaps. But they're pushing each other. And the truth is they have higher expectation of of their brother than anybody else does, including the coaches. So if they don't do something exactly right, the other brother's right on it. It's a beautiful thing. At the beginning, it was Deshaun, who's actually younger, trying to coach up Ivan because he's new to the program. And now you can see the older brother come out of Ivan a little bit, and a little bit scary when that happens too. That's a good thing.
Speaking of quarterbacks, the middle linebacker is your quarterback. Are you liking how Will Newberg has stepped into that role?
Yeah, absolutely. His football IQ is off the charts, right? Guys really listen to him. We talk a lot about Mike backers. You can say all the right things, but if guys aren't listening to you, what difference does it make? So he has that leadership ability where he can be whispering in a stadium of 100,000 people and people hear him because they are listening to what he has to say because there's such trust and belief in his knowledge and that he's going to lead everybody in the right direction. Good?
Thanks, Coach.
Beautiful.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Coach.
you guys.
Appreciate it.
I saw
Is
it
that
late.
it?
I saw it late, and I tried to let it. I almost hit it for you. We saw it right behind it.
Thanks, man.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. I hit it a couple times.